Hi, I'm Jane, and I'm here for your Wednesday evening worship and reflection. And normally we do these reflections at Glen Rhodes at 6:30 after we share a meal together. But for the time being, we're going to do them online and record them from our homes. And this home that I'm on now sits on the traditional land of many First Nations people, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. And while we are cooped up in our houses trying to stop the spread of the coronavirus, I am also reminded of the immense destruction of epidemics on the people of this land who didn't have the healthcare, the resources, the means of communication, or the comforts that we had. I'm thinking about people who experienced the smallpox epidemic in the 17th century that was brought here by European settlers. And we're also reminded of the rich spiritual history of this place and of this land. And I invite you to think about that as we enter into our reflection today. And we'll start how we always do with lighting a candle. Mine is a scented candle because it's all I have. And I will now turn it over to Hillary, who's going to sing Peace, Salam, Shalom for us. We always start Wednesdays that way, and you do not want to hear me sing.
Peace, Salam, Shalom. 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 Peace, Salam, Shalom.
I invite you into a breathing exercise to ground us in this practice tonight. Inhale, I am. Exhale, safe. Inhale, I am. Exhale, healthy. Inhale, I am. Exhale, not alone. We are currently in the middle of Lent, and we observe this time every year to remember the 40 days that Jesus spent alone in the desert before he was crucified. It is a time when Christians often commit themselves to prayer and reflection and fasting, just as Jesus did these things in the wilderness. And on Ash Wednesday, on the first day of Lent, I was outside of Eastminster with Reverend Sarah, and she was giving Ash's blessings to people. And someone came by and asked what Sarah thought was the value in giving something up for Lent, maybe what we could gain from this practice. And Sarah said that when we give something up, we make space for something new in our lives. Maybe something surprising, something unexpected, and maybe something positive. And that how disrupting routines and patterns can create spaces for something different that can flow in, that we can take beyond Lent. And in a sense, in the world right now, we are all being called into a Lenten practice. We're being called into the wilderness of our lives. We are being forced into solitude, forced into reflection, and forced into a time when we must live without. And we are going to fill these spaces somehow. The spaces that we usually occupy with going to restaurants or to choir practice or to school or to the office, we're going to fill them with something new. And that can be scary, but we can trust that something good can come out of this space. I'd like to start us thinking about this with a poem that I read on Instagram. It's by someone named Katie O'Meara. And the people stayed home. And the people stayed home and read books and listened and rested and exercised and made art and played games and learned new ways of being and were still. And listened more deeply. Some meditated, some prayed, some danced. Some met their shadows. And the people began to think differently. And the people healed. And in the absence of people living ignorant, dangerous, mindless, and heartless ways, the earth began to heal. And when the danger passed and the people joined together again, they grieved their losses, and they made new choices, and they dreamed new images, and created new ways to live and heal the earth fully as they had been healed. On Sunday in our online worship service at 10:30, we would love for you to share your personal faith stories about how you are filling the spaces that this coronavirus self-isolation is creating, and where you are finding hope in these new spaces. How are you meaningfully and mindfully filling the gaps? And there's going to be instructions about how you can share those stories with me below this YouTube video. You can text them to me, email them. That would be great. And we'll share them on Sunday. And I'm going to share with you kind of what I learned in the last 5 days of being in self-isolation and where I have found hope and solace. So on Ash Wednesday, as I said, I was outside with Sarah, and I was not even sure if I was going to give up anything for Lent this year. Last year I gave up wearing color, so I only wore black, but that didn't really feel right this year. And I was thinking about what Sarah said about breaking patterns in your life and finding new things among those broken patterns. And I was thinking about maybe destructive patterns that I had in my life that weren't serving me. And I was thinking about how I've gotten into the habit of taking a moment, a conversation, a piece of news, an event, and like blowing it up and projecting it way into the future. So I got news recently that one of my parents is sick. Sarah, my colleague, is leaving after Easter, and there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding that. I'm in a new relationship, and that brings up a lot of questions. And so I take these things and I worry about them and think about what they'll look like in 2 weeks or 6 months or 10 years. And I realized that was like sucking me out of being present and being in the moment and enjoying what I have. So I gave up for Lent, worrying about the implications of things that are happening right now and what they'll look like in the future, especially things that I totally don't have control over. So that was going super well. I was really proud of myself. And then there was a global pandemic. And I was not expecting that. And it has been really hard to keep up my Lenten practice. But it has also been wonderful. And it has served me so well in dealing with this time. And I find hope that there have been centuries of Christians that have found wisdom and purpose in living without for 40 days every year. And I'm happy that this has given me moments to stop and find joy in the present and not stress out about things that are going on. So that's me. I love to hear how you are finding hope or joy or meaning in these really challenging times where you feel deprived. And I would like to close with a poem. This poem is by a woman named Lynn Unger, and she wrote it last week. She lives in the Bay Area, and she is a minister for the Church of the Larger Fellowship, which is an online Unitarian Universalist congregation. Pandemic. What if you thought of it as the Jews consider the Sabbath, the most sacred of times? Cease from travel, cease from buying and selling. Give up, just for now, on trying to make the world different than it is. Sing, pray. Touch only those to whom you commit your life. Center down. And when your body has become still, reach out with your heart. Know that we are connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful. You could hardly deny it now. Know that our lives are in one another's hands. Surely that has become clear. Do not reach out your hands. Reach out your heart. Reach out your words. Reach out the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. Promise this world your love, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, so long as we all shall live. Amen.